Okay, let's jump straight into this explainer. There's this really fascinating and honestly kind of dark phenomenon that happens in internet culture when the line between chaotic entertainment and genuine discomfort just completely disappears. Today, we're taking a close look at the trajectory of internet personality Neighbour Tina D. We're going to break down the exact mechanics of how a digital community takes a quirky, disruptive online character and basically watches them slowly descend into something totally unrecognizable.
Right? Every internet spectacle eventually hits this crossroads where we, the audience, have to ask ourselves a pretty tough question. Are we still just having fun, or are we watching something genuinely disturbing? That's the core difference between a lolcow and a horror cow. See, that massive wave of online attention acts like a giant magnifying glass, slowly blowing up toxic traits until they spiral completely out of control. So what actually happens when the meltdowns aren't funny anymore? The charm wears off and the audience realizes a line has been crossed? Let's find out.
Section 1. The Quirky Internet Neighbor. Let's start right at the beginning.
To really understand how this all unfolded, we first need to get the lolcow phenomenon. That was the exact lens early audiences used to view Tina's behavior. A lolcow is basically someone whose messy, overshared life becomes a source of unintentional comedy. It's kind of like the Wild West equivalent of reality TV. At first, people were essentially hate-watching her, but they saw her as this loud, combative neighbor who just couldn't help but stir the pot. Deep down, the consensus was that underneath all that yelling, it was mostly just harmless drama.
Just look at her early digital footprint from around 2014 to 2016. Her whole vibe was defined by these ridiculous high-energy pranks. We're talking about confronting YouTube personality Angry Grandpa over 4th of July fireworks, or literally barging into a trailer to steal a microwave for a Halloween prank. She even got involved in this completely unhinged fake Mother's Day marriage proposal. Was it messy and loud? Oh, absolutely, but it felt like classic, fairly harmless internet chaos. The audience laughed at the pure absurdity of it all. It actually made her seem kind of human and relatable, despite the constant screaming.
Moving on to Section 2, the attention loop. But here is where the story shifts. We slowly start to see this really stark change in how the audience perceives her. The transition went from laughing with her messy rants to laughing at her, and eventually to just feeling deeply unsettled. She morphed from this awkward, unintentional side character into someone who figured out a fundamental rule of the modern internet: negative attention pays the bills.
And this is absolutely crucial to understand. The internet rewards escalation. As she realized that controversy directly spiked her engagement, she leaned all the way into the outrage. She became incredibly reactionary toward anyone who questioned her, creating these highly polarized factions of trolls and defenders within her own community. Every single critique was branded as hate. The hostility got so intense that the community started heavily clipping her meltdowns and insults, which just fed this massive, never-ending feedback loop of toxicity.
Section 3. Crossing the line. This is where the whole boiling frog effect really took over. Observers started noticing a deeply distressing pattern emerging. We weren't looking at edgy jokes or loud neighborhood pranks anymore. We're talking repeated offensive language and heavy slur usage. And instead of backing down or apologizing when called out by her own fans, she'd triple down. Transcripts show these horrific moments of her throwing ableist remarks at commenters, literally targeting their children. In another instance, she went on a bigoted rant about a Chinese restaurant using entirely baseless racist stereotypes. Her hostility toward any kind of accountability was just off the charts.
I mean, just listen to her own words here. What's truly wild is the absolute lack of accountability. In her live stream, she openly admits she had to alter her vocabulary, specifically swapping out a highly offensive racial slur, but only because she was forced to. She acknowledges offending people, but her combative, unapologetic attitude doesn't change one bit. Actually, scratch that. It wasn't even an apology. It was purely a tactical shift to keep her stream going. The content stopped feeling accidental and started feeling really calculated and mean-spirited.
Section 4. The Scam Allegations.
So the outrage didn't stop at offensive language. It actually bled into serious allegations that she was weaponizing sympathy for cash. Commentators pointed out this highly effective recurring formula taking over her channel. Step 1, intense drama happens. Step 2, she streams, claiming total victimhood and helplessness. Step 3, the audience feels bad and sends money. And Step 4, the cycle just resets for the next week. Pretty soon, her own community members started speaking out, saying they felt completely exploited by these manufactured crises and these supposedly never-ending financial emergencies.
The absolute peak of this era hit during a major real-life health incident. In 2020, she lost her leg to neuropathy. And get this, she actually named her amputated stub Little Dan, completely unironically after the character from Forrest Gump. It's bizarre, sure, but more importantly, critics argue the emotional manipulation around her health just skyrocketed during this time. The amputation became the ultimate shield against literally any criticism. She was repeatedly clashing with former friends and creators, even bizarrely blaming them for her missing leg. In one confrontation, she drops this wild demand. "I'll settle out of court for $1.5 million, let's make that clear. And I don't have it, you better find it." She literally told a fellow creator to go to a car lot or sell off family assets to pay her this imaginary $1.5 million settlement. This weaponization of pity became such a glaring, undeniable pattern that her remaining audience couldn't look past it anymore.
Section 5. Becoming a horror cow.
At this breaking point, the community officially revoked her Lolcow label. She was now seen as fully embracing antagonistic behavior, thriving almost entirely inside this ecosystem of retaliation and intense polarization. She wasn't just a quirky side character in someone else's vlog anymore. She was the central figure of her own outrage loop, actively farming engagement through constant, unrelenting escalation instead of, finding any sort of healthy resolution.
Just look at this community post. It brilliantly shows exactly how far the spiral actually went. Here she is, gloating about handing audio over to animal control in a petty, real-life revenge plot against another YouTuber, ominously warning them that what comes around goes around. It's genuinely shocking to see internet drama spill over into real life, messing with someone's actual pets. It perfectly captures that vindictive, retaliatory energy that defined this dark new era of her online presence.
For so many viewers, the meltdowns just stopped being funny when it became obvious that sympathy was her core business model. The audience realized that every single consequence of her own actions was being spun into victimhood, and that victimhood was directly linked to donation baiting. The chaos wasn't a byproduct of her personality anymore. It was the actual product she was selling.
The audience that originally showed up for quirky dysfunction stayed long enough to witness some genuine cruelty. And that right there is the core difference we're talking about today. Lolcows are a spectacle, but horror cows? They make audiences profoundly uncomfortable. The entertainment value just vanishes. It gets replaced entirely by severe emotional volatility, this aggressive, manipulative energy, and a total void of personal accountability. It stops being fun and starts feeling, honestly, a little bit dangerous.
The internet usually loves a good redemption arc, right? But observers noticed that time and time again, Tina chose escalation instead. Viewers aren't watching hoping for a turnaround anymore. They're watching with morbid curiosity. It's like being unable to look away from a car crash in slow motion. The fundamental questions surrounding her content shifted from what silly prank will happen next to legitimately wondering how far can this dark spiral actually go before it completely collapses. And that leaves us with a really profound question to think about regarding internet culture and parasocial exploitation. When digital communities reward bad behavior with constant attention and money until it escalates into something totally unrecognizable, are we, the audience, ultimately responsible for funding the horror cows we create? It's definitely a sobering thought on the true cost of internet notoriety and the kinds of ecosystems we choose to engage with.